With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu. At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Hey, shh. Calm down. The show is about to start. Reese on the radio. Turn it up. Turn it up low. Turn it up loud.
It's like a dream come true.
Turn on your radio. Reese is on the radio.
Yo, let's get it.
Due to the nature of this program, discretion does not exist. It's Reese on the radio. Right now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
It's an interesting thing when you do this for a living. Like, this is your job. To come on the radio and talk to the audience and have them talk back to you and get messages about things that are important. Sometimes I say to myself, or I ask myself, and I really do. I'm not trying to, draw you in with some sort of sob story that makes me all important. It is something that I really think about. So when I say this, I'm saying it to be honest with you, not to bloviate. But sometimes I do ask myself, like, what are you hoping to accomplish here? Maybe get some people to think about things differently. Are you here to give voice to those who agree with you and to debate back and forth? Are you really doing anything, changing anything? And the reason why I've ever thought about that is because one time my ex-wife, good friend of mine, to this day, Mary, you all know her, Mary. She asked me that when I was doing the podcast. She was like, why do you do it? You pay for it. You technically do it for free as far as the revenue is concerned. I mean, it pays for itself. You really do it for nothing. Why are you doing it? And I went, I really do believe that even one, maybe two, maybe even three people will listen to the show. It will grow, and maybe it will change some minds. It will help someone think critically about where we are and where we're going. It's just doing your small part. And I was watching Kevin Sorbo of Hercules fame, independent filmmaker. You know the guy. God is not dead. He said that during the 2020 Republican convention in an interview. He said, you got to get out there and you got to do something. You got to talk. Doesn't matter whether or not you got one listener or 1 million listeners. You got to do it. Don't fret. Get out there. Get the word out. Someone is listening to your voice, and you got to use it for good. And that sort of gives me hope in doing this. I get a lot of messages from you folks, and I really do appreciate it. From the bottom of my heart, I do. But there are stories that really get me mad and incensed. And I can tell these stories to you to get you mad and incensed with me. But now I have to do it because I'm hoping that somebody on the alternative side, on the opposite side, gets to listen to this And maybe, not so much as have a change of heart, but think critically about what they believe in. Because there must be a degree of abandonment of ideals and abandonment of morals and, I don't know, just common sense to support some of the things that people are doing now for things like social justice, equity, inclusion, whatever it is. When you ask for these things, you are asking for them to be way beyond the pale. You are asking for somebody to be extreme. And I'd like to give you an example of that extreme. I'm going to do this one backwards. I like doing these backwards. I'd like to give you what happened or what the result of this story was, and then give you the story. Because I want you to understand that what you believe, those of you on the left, those of you who are progressives, what you believe goes against your own core principles. See, what you do out there in the rallies and the protests, we know that's all theater. It's not real. When you go home, you have a certain set of ideals that no one knows about that you can do in the privacy of your home. And good on you. I am so proud of you for practicing those beliefs in your home, as you should. I think all of us should be good stewards in our own home when it comes to our own practices. What you do in public may influence people or may give them license to do the most unseemly things, but whatever. We'll deal with that in the streets. Let me get to the story. An Oregon Court of Appeals presiding judge named Josephine Mooney overturned the jury's decision to keep a man in jail for life. Judge Mooney felt that there was so-called racial bias in the jury selection because 2 black jurors were removed from a case of a man who was tried and convicted and going to serve said life in prison. Through all of this, the perpetrator of said crime had served 8.5 years in jail and now will be released in about 1.5 years, serving 10 years. During an interview with the International Association of LGBTQ plus judges, Judge Mooney confirms that she doesn't look at each case based on true justice, but rather through the liberal ideology of social justice, which puts race at the forefront. She says, quote, "I'm firmly committed to follow the rule of law in a way that supports a diverse and open society. And when I say that, and when I use those words, they are sometimes buzzwords that start to lose their meaning over time. When I use the words diverse and open, I mean genuinely and honestly diverse and open." She went on to say, "And I think the role that the law plays in society, if it's enforced equitably, fairly, impartially, I think you can get there. But it requires each one of us to look deep inside and make a conscious effort to see things from another person's perspective." That was her quote. Let's get to the case that she overturned from life imprisonment and made 10 years. Headline: Murdering dad gets sweetheart deal because female judge has white guilt. Americans are waking up to the reality that our judicial system is rotten to the core. However, this latest example of judge vacating a conviction of a man who violently murdered his daughter over the lack of jury diversity is about the most disgusting abuse of judicial history one can display. 15-month-old Kamaya Flores died from a drug overdose in 2013 while in the care of her father, Darian Lee McWoods. The Oregon State Medical Examiner Office found methamphetamine in her bloodstream and evidence of physical abuse, including unilateral broken ribs with the laceration of her liver, facial bruising, and facial pectical hemorrhages on her body. It took over 4 years to get McWoods in front of a jury to answer for the charges against him, which included 2 counts of murder by abuse, 3 counts of manslaughter in the first degree, and 1 count of criminal negligent homicide, criminal mistreatment in the first degree, and tampering with a witness during the trial.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
The state's expert testified that his daughter had injuries consistent with the inflicted child abuse and compression asphyxia. McWoods was eventually convicted on all charges on June of 2018 and was sentenced to life in prison. Now, in a healthy society, writes the writer, this would be the end of the story. A father violently abused his daughter and left drugs out that led to her murder. But unfortunately, the American justice system is tainted by left-wing activists, attorneys, and judges who use race as a reason to give men like McWoods lighter sentences. Now, I want to go back to the last part of the quote of Judge Josephine Mooney is her name. The last quote, she says, again, and I think that the role the law plays in society, if it's enforced equitably, fairly, and impartially, I think you can get there. But it requires each one of us to look deep inside and make a conscious effort to see things from another person's perspective. Clearly not the murdered child. The reason for this overturning of his sentence was because 2 jurors were excluded who happened to be black, which gives the impression to me, maybe I'm just a lay person in all of this, gives the impression from Judge Mooney that had those black judges been in the jury, or those jurors been in the jury, I should say, sorry, that they would have seen this from a racially equitable place that would have disregarded the death of this child and understood this black man's reasoning, excuse for murdering a 15-month-old child? I would think, and maybe I'm crazy for thinking it, I'm under the impression that some things go beyond race. I'm under the belief that some things go beyond gender. Some things even go beyond age. I don't believe that there is a cultural divide in this country that sees the evidence of a 15-month-old child with methamphetamines in the system, broken ribs, bruised liver, asphyxiated, and says, what race is the guy? None. Unless I'm missing something. Unless someone can explain to me, because I would imagine that it's almost like looking at the Casey Anthony trial. You know, at the end of it, I understand what the coroner found out, what the coroner suggests, right? And that's why she was let off. But come on, there's a consensus, isn't there? Even though none of us are coroners, none of us are MDs, we know we got a mother who is running around, clearly neglecting her child, and a child who's dead. Sometimes 2 + 2 = 4, 1 + 1 = 2. But in this case, a judge says he served his time, 10 years goes. And what gives him that get-out-of-jail-free card is the fact that 2 black jurors were excluded. For what reasons, we don't know. There hasn't been any explanation. Maybe we should find out. But it could be for a host of reasons. Maybe one of the black jurors said, you know what, I don't think that I can judge this case fairly because, I don't know, I'm a Black Lives Matter member. You know, or I don't think I can judge this case fairly because I don't believe in convicting black people of crimes. Or, there's a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of stuff that could exclude them. This goes back to the thing I said yesterday about the stupidest thing I read today about moving Dr. Martin Luther King's bust out of the Oval Office. Does it have to stay because it's a black man? Like, can it never be touched? Is it so sensitive that once you apply the race to it, nothing can be done? There can be no scrutiny. There can be no questions. Seriously. I mean, be honest with you, I would love to be able to get away with that. Who wouldn't? I don't think that there's a bunch of people running around saying that they feel justice. Like, boy, do I wish I could get away with some of the stuff. If I could just say, you know what? You don't get it. It's an Italian thing. But what's it take? What does it take? What does it take? People talk about being fair and equitable for the murderer? Has it gotten that bad? Have we had to reach equitable levels to the point where a man who murders his 15-month-old daughter gets let out with minimal time? Is that the kind of equity, the kind of reparations we're talking about? I don't know anybody who can live with that, much less in the black community. It's sad, but I just wanted to share that with you because it outraged me, and I I would be insane to think that it wouldn't outrage you. The story's in the Daily Caller. If you want to read it, it's there today. Our good friends at the Daily Caller posted that today. It was the top story. We got more news, more views. We're on 1080 today up until 4 o'clock, and then we go online to the Odyssey app, so make sure you download the Odyssey app. We got more news and more views. We got a bunch of Connecticut stuff today you don't want to miss. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080. I'd like to display, if I could, the mind-numb virus that is progressivism. And I don't say this because I wish to be mean-spirited. I love the guy. I've talked to him often enough, and he is a supporter of this show just by tuning in, even though he doesn't agree with me. But I need to read what he wrote because, again, he wants people to know that's what he thinks, so this is what he thought of the story. If you're just joining us, we talked about a story about a man who was found guilty of murdering his 15-month-old daughter, asphyxiation, methamphetamines, lacerations to her liver, broken ribs. I mean, we're talking textbook case of murdering your child, who's supposed to serve life in prison because of an appellate judge who says that she wanted to delve out justice equitably based upon race. He's going to get out in 10. Jury of his peers, they say. Jury of his peers. Donald writes in the chat room his statement. Again, after hearing the story, which I presume he heard the whole thing. I said it transcends who you are, where you're from. You hear a story like this, bury this guy. Here's what he writes. And I couldn't believe it. According to the U.S. Sentencing Commission, black male offenders on average receive sentences 20.4% longer than white males who commit the same crimes. So what? Are you suggesting that the judge was supposed to deal with an isolated case of a man who killed his child and run the statistics? That's how we're supposed to deal with people in a reasonable way? We run the numbers? That's how we're convicting people? Donald, come on, man. Really? What about that isn't just insanity? That you think that that's how we dole out punishment here? I don't understand it. Zach says she was 16 months old, bro. Why is this guy even breathing? I don't know one person who would look at it, but apparently...
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Donald can look at this and find some reasoning here. It makes no sense to me. 860-522-WTIC. Let me go to Steve in Springfield first. How are you, Steve? Steve, you there? Oh, that's unfortunate. Sorry, Steve. Let's go to Tom then. Hey, Tom.
Hey, hello. I really got to make a statement on White Mike yesterday, but where was the justice for the baby?
Yeah.
She was at least half black, right?
Yes.
He was a black man. That was his child.
Yeah.
So she was at least 50% black. Where was the justice for her while she was being tortured? She just didn't have a bullet to her head and be instantly dead.
Yeah.
They beat the hell out of her at least one day,
I think,
or months before her death.
You know what? Exactly. Would there have been? Maybe there would have been justice for the 16-month-old child if she had been killed by a white cop. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
That's, how do you look at it any other way? I mean, ostensibly, that's what we have here, is that this woman is looking at this man and saying, how does she look into the eyes? And this is one thing that I never understood, because these are the same people who will say, you can't understand what that person is going through because you're not this, that, or the other, right? You're not gay, you're not trans, you're not black, you're not Hispanic. So you can't possibly know what they're going through. In this case, a white woman says that she understands his pain, understands what he went through, and the struggles, he was probably fighting to not kill his 16-month-old child, right? Or 18 months. I think she's a year and a half. Or his 18-month-old child, right? And I've got to give this guy some leniency instead of just saying, nail this guy as badly as I possibly can. A jury of his peers said he's got to. And what do you think the jurors were thinking who may have been all white, getting justice for, as you put it, at least a half-black child who was seeking justice for a child who's no longer in existence? I'd say they got some racial justice out of this.
Yeah, she is pure white guilt. That's all that is, Reese. It's pure white guilt.
It's disgusting. What did you want to say about White Mike? Because I'm going to talk about that today.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that infuriated me so much. And I will try to put myself in his place, like you said.
Right.
Kind of,
But you know what? Let me put it this way, and I'll tell you what Mike, and again, this is not disparaging. He's a friend of mine, but I know where he's coming from here. Mike is really takes the microcosm of bad behavior and spreads it on towards a lot of people. It's not like he was making that reference yesterday about IDF soldiers who were shooting Palestinians in the testicles. He will use that as an example to smear or to ridicule everybody in the IDF because no one has done anything about that individual incident. He can name probably hundreds, but it's meant to condemn them all. That's his auspice. Yeah. That's the point of view.
No one's pure and holy. Everyone makes mistakes, but to say that every Israel soldier is like that is ridiculous.
Right.
But he made the comment about Israel's wanting to gain ground. If he goes back and reads anything about Israel, in the 40s, they offered Palestine massively more territory than they have now in Gaza, and they said no.
That's right.
In the 50s, they offered them more land, and they said no. In the 60s, they'd offered them more land than they have now. They've consistently said no.
Oh, they didn't just say no, Tom. Tom, you're missing a very, very key element in all this. Not only did they say no, but they started wars after they were offered.
Exactly. And after every war, Israel still offered them land.
Indeed.
All they want is from the river to the sea. They want to kill every Jewish person.
Yeah.
All Israel wants to do is live in peace with the peaceful Muslims in the area. And the other thing that he doesn't mention, no Arab country wants the Palestinians. They never did.
This is also true.
Palestinians are nomadic people. They never had a homeland. They were just nomadic people. They traveled all over the Persian Empire.
You know what?
History.
Tom, let me stop you because that's a good point. That when Mike was brought up the fact that why he mentioned that Israelis have always had problems with everyone. He fails to mention that, even though most of the so-called Palestinians, and I use that term loosely, and I'm sorry, folks, history has got my back on this, but when you look at all of the Arab nations across, what is it they say when a war breaks out due to Hamas or Hezbollah, when refugees need to leave Gaza and go somewhere else? All of the Arab nations whom they share DNA with, what do they do every time? Jordan? No. Egypt? No. Got to build a wall. They all say it. And the president of Egypt just recently said, I cannot have Palestinians here because they create problems. He said that as recent as last year. So you're 100% right.
Yeah. Reese, I've been waiting since 6 o'clock last night to call you. That it just infuriated me.
Well, Tom, I'm glad that you got the opportunity to let it out, man. Always a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you, boss.
You bet.
All right. Yeah, now I'm going to address that because that's, again, it's a good point. And I get it. The whole deal is there is a large group of people who call Israel the aggressors. Now, and again, I make this clear. I'm going to say this from the get-go. Do I have a bias? Yes. There are a lot of people who sit up and go, I'm objective. I'm not. On certain things, I am not. Some things I know as a conservative I got to own because we ain't perfect. No one is. But on this one, I stand my ground on this one, regardless of how you may criticize Benjamin Netanyahu, which I've done a great deal of in the last couple of days, is criticize Benjamin Netanyahu and been incredibly suspicious, okay, of his actions in Iran. But I do understand all of this. Maybe from my perspective, I understand what his reasoning is. Not that I agree with it, but I understand. That's the difference. My job is not, what can I do here other than either disagree or opine about what my opinion is? I just want to get that clear. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Donald comes back after he says, according to the U.S. Sentencing Commission, about the story we talked about earlier, about the 18-month-old child that was murdered by her father. He writes back, until the playing field is level, your argument is mute. I think he said it's moot, sir. It's moot. Why don't people like you speak out when white people get a slap on the wrist for the crimes that they commit? Do you hear it? Do you hear it? This isn't about race until it's made about race. You see, what I suggested was that anybody looking at this case would get justice for the victim, and in this case, an 18-month-old child. But someone who can't see beyond race at all, has no interest in seeing anything beyond race, cannot. That girl must not be in any way avenged. She can receive no justice, because what is more important is racial justice. That's more important than her justice. He can't even see, he can't even weigh out that black girl's death against this black man murdering her. It's almost like saying, she's dead. What can I do for her now? Who's callous here? See, again, and this is the nonsense of this, Donald. You don't understand it, but let me explain it to you. You are not noble. You are callous and cruel. You claim you have empathy. You claim you have compassion. But you don't have it for this girl. And it's evident in your statement. We'll take a break. We'll be back. More news, more views when we return. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC NewsTalk 1080. All right, we're back. Reese on the radio on NewsTalk 1080. Let me get to, there's some phone calls here, actually. Oh, there he is. Steve is in Springfield is back. How are you, Steve?
Hi, Reese. How you doing?
Pretty good. What's up?
I don't know. That whole thing that you were talking about, that little girl, James Madison wrote that justice is the end of government. If that fails, all is lost.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Wow. Indeed.
And the thing is, too, you know, this whole thing that, you know, it's like the Hatfields and the McCoys. You shot my brother, so I'm going to kill your daughter. You know, it's a bunch of crap. Justice is supposed to be an even weight. It's supposed to be even-handed, and it's supposed to be blind.
Right. And again, I think the miscarriage of justice that we're noticing here, Steve, is there are people who are trying themselves to correct whatever past disparities there may have been. My friend Rusty.
You can't do that.
Yeah, my friend Rusty used to, well, still does. He uses the term or the phrase playing God. And that's what it is. These people are patting themselves on the back, thinking that they're doing something good. Well, in essence, all they're doing is playing God. Because I would say, look, if God being the ultimate decider here, right? God's going to lay this out. There are no coincidences. But it is never up to you to actually make decisions for people and what they do. Your job is to apply the law. Forget about all that other nonsense. Because this guy had nothing to do with the other disparities. He's responsible for the crime he committed, and that's how you should apply the law.
You know, and it's like when they talk about, like, nations that displaced other nations. How far back in time are you supposed to go to give all the land back to everybody that had it taken from them?
Again,
even the Indians themselves were fighting against each other and conquering each other. Give me a break.
I know, but I think the amount of people, presentism, that's the term. There are so many people today who think that they have no role in life. Now they must decide that they're going to correct the past. And again, as Rusty put it, playing God. It's like they are going to be the moral majority, the moral superiority, and correct the wrongs of the past, because I think in their own life, they don't really have, well, maybe they don't. I shouldn't say they don't, but I'm under the impression they don't really have any purpose. So now it's easy to just judge things based upon the past, and then you try to correct them.
I'd like to make one quick point before I go.
Please.
This is something that's kind of like been dawning on me. You know what the whole holy grail about transgenderism is?
What's that?
I think what's transgender is it creates the most mentally disturbed, cognitive dissonance type of people that make great revolutionaries.
That's a good point. If you can brainwash them with that, you can brainwash them into anything. You can get them to stand for anything.
To do anything. Yeah. I really believe that. I think they're training sociopathic soldiers to just wreak havoc.
That's such a good point. Because, if there is no objective truth, anything can be true. And you can give people their marching orders based on that. I think that's the reason why we hear
they never print their manifestos.
Yeah, but I think that's the reason why we hear things like, if you pass this bill, people will die. We don't have to have any objective truth there. You have so many mind-numb robots who believe anything that they're told.
I'm hoping that what's his name, John F. Kennedy Jr., who's the health secretary, he should delve into this.
Yeah, it's a good point. It is a way to it's a way to influence and to brainwash. If anything.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you, sir.
No, take care.
You got it. I think that's kind of easy to do. I don't know what a woman is. Transgender men or I don't know. Transgender are, I don't know whatever it is. How the phrase goes. I don't know. I just know women are women. I just probably because I'm confused because I'm not supposed to be confused. One more comment by Donald before we go to break. And again, never once taking into consideration a word that I just said about how cruel it is to not even care about an 18-month-old child losing their life. He writes, in today's world, everything is about race. The conversation is about race, and the fact the accused is black, and therefore the judge had no business reducing his sentence. I'm almost sure if the accused was white, you would not be concerned. Of course, really? And that's where you think you get your justification from? You presume that I wouldn't care, so that's why you care more? Wow. All right. What else can I say? What else can I say? I mean, there you have it, folks. Sometimes you let people walk into the wall. We got to take a time out, but we will be back. More news, more views. We got a lot of Connecticut stuff to talk about today. And a kid by the name of Slade Logsdon. I want to talk about him. But let's get to some news with John Silva on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Reese on the radio, making sense of the news. Yeah, even when it makes no sense at all. Now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
All right, top of the hour. Let's get to some news. Got some judge news in the headlines today as well. Former President Barack Obama, who spoke at the Connecticut Forum yesterday, many were disappointed at his reluctance to criticize the current administration, specifically Donald Trump. Instead, he spoke about democracy, the losing message of democracy. I read a whole article in the New York Times about this today and just went, yeah. It was sold out. It was sold out. It's like 2,800 people showed up. A couple of elected officials were there. Johanna Hayes was there as well, including many others. But, yeah, whatever. New polling says that Americans reject street violence and insisted that only legal vetted migration be permitted into our homeland. When asked specifically about the kind of violence in Los Angeles recently, 68% said the violators must be prosecuted. Only 21%, I should say, of them deemed the charges as not important. They must be the same 21% who are voting for Democrats. They also said amongst men, 74% of them believe in criminal consequences, and only 18% of men disagree. In addition to these polls, nearly two-thirds of Hispanics, 64%, demand that there be prosecutions for the raids in places like Los Angeles. That means Portland, Seattle, all those places. In other judge news, a Massachusetts district court judge named Shelley Richmond Joseph. Anybody remember her? Anybody remember her? I remember her. She may lose her six-figure salary after she allegedly helped a twice-deported illegal alien evade arrest by the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement back in 2018. This week's lawyers for the Massachusetts Commission on Judicial Conduct recommended that Joseph be stripped of her, wait for it, $207,000 annual salary and permanently be suspended from the bench as a result of an investigation by the state agency into her actions 7 years ago. The judge can no longer command the respect, they said, and the authority essential to judicial function. Judith Fabricant, special counsel for the commission, said this week during a hearing on the matter. You might remember, this was in 2018 when Joseph swept national headlines after she was accused of helping a twice-deported illegal alien by the name of Jose Medina Perez, who was wanted by ICE agents at the time, escape out of a back door, sound familiar, of the courthouse to evade being arrested by ICE agents who were in the courthouse lobby. This one, for our older audience, please be careful out there. According to a study, U.S. adults, older U.S. adults, are increasingly dying from unintentional falls. The study, which ranges from 2003 to 2023, say that death rates from falls rose more than 70% for adults between the ages of 65 and 74. The report from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said that the rate increase is for more than 75% of people 75 to 84. And more than that, doubled for seniors who are 85 and older. The falls continue to be a public health problem, they said, which they say is because more people are living longer and not recognizing that falls are much more, detrimental to them in their older or elderly state. So if you're older out there, please be careful. Please be careful out there walking. I say to myself every time I have to get on the floor, I had to get underneath the dining room table the other day.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra durable pocket hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free pocket pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
To take the leaf or to move the leaf, it was a weird thing, and there was a lot of groaning. A lot of groaning. So you older folks, please be careful out there as you're walking. And plus, because you're in Connecticut, you got considerable weather, you got cold, you got everything. All right, let's get to the phones. 860-522-WTIC. Frank is in Woodbridge. Hello, sir.
Good. I don't know where to start. Well, Karen Reed was found not guilty. You know who she is.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even see that. I was waiting for the update, but thank you.
Yeah, and that, to me, I was following this case. This woman was set up.
I'm inclined to agree.
The cops killed that guy, and they tried to pin it on her. He got killed by one of his own. Now, I don't know why. They said this guy was a hothead or didn't get along or he was doing something, but there's no doubt they killed him, and they tried to pin it on this girl. And the woman's white, and so are the cops. So it has nothing to do with color. We got some evil people out there, black and white.
Yeah, I know. Like I said.
If you commit a crime against a woman or a child, you're not a criminal, you're an animal. There's a line in the sand. You know that. We go way back to the old days.
Frank, let me tell you something. You and I, since I've joined this network, have always been eyeball to eyeball on that term. Right. I love, and I'll be honest with you, the first time I had ever heard anybody use the term, you're an animal, was an old Italian guy in the Bronx when I was in high school. I loved it when he said that.
Right. It was in the Italian and black neighborhoods. You don't commit crimes against women and children. There's a line in the sand. You don't cross it.
Yeah, we call that.
You could commit crimes against other people, other men, but not against women and children.
That's the ultimate disrespect right there when you tell somebody they're beyond a human being, you're an animal.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. That's the term we use for it. And guys back then that did something like this, if this guy gets out of prison early, the family will go after this guy.
He's been in there 8.5 years, nothing. And, he's getting out in a year and a half. Like I said, I don't know, what's going to happen. Hopefully, this was an appellate court judge, so what happens thereafter, who knows? But it's a horrible story. But I had to equate it to what people are talking about with this, this progressivism that has now gotten into places like, I guess places of power. We're seeing it in the criminal justice system. We're seeing it in legislation. We're seeing it everywhere. And it's not good for average citizens. And they're not going to seek justice. This restorative justice is going to harm a lot of people.
Reese, the number one thing I don't like about this country, I told you this a long time ago, identity.
Yeah.
People always notice that somebody's color, their skin. They always know their religion. Who cares?
Exactly.
That's not important. Because there is no advantage to me being white or black or Jew or Christian when you walk into a supermarket. All they care about is how much money you got in your pocket.
That's it. You know what? But even that's considered evil now. Thank you, Frankie. I got you, buddy. Let's go to my good friend Matt in Bristol. Hello, sir.
Hello, Mr. Hopkins.
What's going on, sir?
Hey, I don't know what Frank's talking about. I'm white. When I walk into a grocery store, everything's free. I don't know what he's talking about.
That reminds me of that old Eddie Murphy Saturday Night Live skit when he goes to the grocery store and the guy goes, he buys a cup of coffee and a paper and he goes to pay for it. And the guy goes, "What are you doing, man? No, it's free. It's free. You're one of us."
It's free.
I'm assuming. Are you calling about yesterday's show? Or are you calling about today's the opening monologue?
I was gonna call about yesterday's show, the end of it. You know exactly where I was going with.
Oh yeah, I know.
But no. But instead of that, because other people already kind of crossed that bridge.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna talk about this guy that you're talking about that murdered his kid.
Yeah.
So if they really want to make things fair, I'm okay with it. If a black guy murders his kid, then kill him. If a white guy does it, kill him, revive him, and kill him again. Now everything's even.
Right. So that will get rid of Donald's 20% argument, right? It's sort of
there you go.
You know,
yes.
we sort of even it out, and we make sure that the white guy gets punished twice as hard with the death penalty. Right.
Yeah, just revive them.
Yeah.
Say, hey, you with us? Oh, now you're dead again. Sorry, dude.
That's what I would call consecutive life sentences right there.
Yeah, double death. Yeah, double death.
That's interesting. Thank you, Matt. Let me grab some more here. Let's go to,
right, bye.
You got it. Let's go to Jim, who's in Wellington, real quick. Hey, Jim.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll tell you what, concerning the Palestinians in Gaza, one other point. I know you had spoken about it earlier.
Yeah, that's
one
fine.
other point. When Israel left them with a thriving flower business, they turned the whole thing over. It was $1 million operation. Basically, they grow flowers for Europe, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that got totally trashed. As a matter of fact, it was destroyed. I don't know who destroyed it. I assume Hamas did. The other thing is the UN has carved out a multi-million-dollar fund for the Palestinians on Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't track where they never track where that money went. We all know where it went. And the Palestinians in the Arab world are considered second, third-rate people. And you've already touched on it. They're not allowed to go anywhere. Nobody wants them.
Yeah,
Nobody wants them in the area.
But you know what? See, there's another side of that, Jim, that needs to be addressed, because it's. Let me put it this way: there's a parallel here. The progressive left in this country is very similar to how Palestinians are treated in the Arab world. Because if you look at them today, right, if you look at Democrats today, what do they say? They're fringe, ideological, far left. They want the biggest or the most extremes, and they will shut you down if you don't adhere to those extremes. They have clearly more power in the Democrat Party than the Democrat Party wants to allow. But here's the sad part. The Democrats bred those people in the colleges. They supported them. They put oxygen in them. They supported them in places like Occupy Wall Street. They supported them in the Weather Underground and every other radical group that ever came into the United States, those extreme leftists. Democrats always funded and fueled that apparatus. And I called it a tantamount to creating or raising rabid dogs, like feeding a dog gunpowder and expecting him to act like an insane. That's the same thing that's going with Palestinians.
Well, let me ask you this. Let's put the Palestinians aside for a moment.
Okay.
And I agree with your description of exactly what you're talking about, the dogma from the left, the Democrats, et cetera, et cetera. I agree with that. But let's forget that for a moment. Why don't we take a look at, was there an outrage from any of these the far left Democrats when Christians were getting beheaded, when gays were getting
thrown off buildings
and burned alive and put in cages and drowned alive? Was there any outrage at all?
None.
Now, the last time I checked, those people weren't Palestinians that were getting killed. They were Christian Arabs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They were gay men that were Arabs. And we can go on and on and on with this across I don't know how many countries.
But there's but Jim, there's a naivete in all of this as well. And I always hearken back to that story when the former president of Iran, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, came to Columbia University. He was asked to speak there. It was a whole thing there to talk about, to deny the Holocaust, to talk about the Jews, and the whole nine. And there was a question and answer period where a young lady asked President Ahmadinejad about gays in Iran. And Mahmoud looked at her in the most quizzical way and said, "There are no gays in Iran." And she goes, no, I'm certain that they're there. And Mahmoud's response to her was, "Do you know where they are?" And she didn't realize that she wasn't talking to a guy who is reasonable or even supported what she believed about, she didn't understand that this guy, if you told him, he would hunt those people down and kill them. She was under some sort of impression he was an ally as a Muslim. And that shows the naivete of the left when it comes to these people.
Let me end with this. No matter what happens in Iran as far as the government goes, one thing I don't hear anybody talking about is the 30,000 mullahs that are still there.
Yep.
I'm assuming there's some still. So whatever's going to happen, they keep talking about the Shah of Iran. You know, if you look at history of the Shah of Iran, that's not a good history by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
You know, and it was the Persians, the Iranians that originally wanted him out. He was abusing the Iranian people. And we all know what happened after that.
Yeah.
Now,
Are people still referencing? I saw one or two people still talk about the Shah of Iran. I guess in some context to give some history lesson about Iran, but that's not where we are today.
No, we're not there now, but his son is getting ready to go back, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And my only comment on it is this. Whatever happens with the government, the intermediate government, whatever.
Yeah.
What's going on with the 25 or 30,000 mullahs right now that are in that country?
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
that's my point.
That's the vacuum that most people are concerned about, because this is not an easy fix. It's not an easy fix, and regime change, there's no way. I mean, forget about it. It's a Ouija board as far as regime change is concerned. You would have no idea what you're going to get at the end and what that could create. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate you. I said this yesterday. I get the back and forth, and I understand the quagmire that the president is in. Because look, let me say this, just to be clear. It doesn't have to be a war. It could be U.S. troops flying over, taking out its nuclear capacity, and going home. The rest of the world can look at it and just go, how dare United States do blah, 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 and never there be any conflict. Years later, 10, 20 years later, because you know that axe to grind, that doesn't go away easy. That grudge, that's going to sit there, and it's going to sit around forever and ever and ever. You know, people forget 1993 World Trade Center, 2001 World Trade Center. Same actors. No different. When they carry that grudge, they carry it for a long time. In 1993, when they caught the guys who put that budget truck, was it a budget truck underneath? Do you know what one of those guys were caught saying after he was arrested? They said, we're going to tear that building down. It was 1993. And they accomplished that feat in 2001. So anything that we do, there are repercussions. As I said yesterday, there are other actors in all this. The Houthis, Hezbollah. It could be anybody. Hamas. All of these people are funded by Iran. Sure, you can tear them down and make them a poor country. But eventually, they will find a way. You know, they are just as prideful as anyone else, and they hate America. And that hate is long. That hate for America is long. There's no convincing them of otherwise. That's what the Ayatollah Khomeini said, I will never surrender. He doesn't care about whether or not his people face the consequences of his actions. He could care less. Couldn't care less. This is an ideology that is bred in him, deep inside of his existence. Surrender? That would have been like, what's his name? Yasser Arafat. Remember? Not Yasser Arafat. What am I thinking of? Is it Yasser Arafat? Yeah.
Gotta roll.
Gotta be Arafat. Yeah, I gotta take a break. We'll be back. More news, more views. I explain all of this when we return. Stick around.
Fan of WTIC? Then do us a favor. Download the free Odyssey app and favorite WTIC.
Make sure that you guys stick around, even though we're going to be going to the Odyssey app, or you can go to WTIC.com in the next 20 minutes. We'll be there. I've got plenty of news and plenty of views to talk about. In particular, an article written by Slade Logsdon. He is a recent high school graduate who's lived in New Caanan for pretty much all of his life, according to him. He says almost my entire life. This article that was in the Hartford Courant was interesting. And I've noticed that the Hartford Courant has been featuring a lot of young people as guest journalists. This one, headline alone, I found interesting. And as soon as I saw it, I said, I got to talk about this. Trying to understand the exclusive nature of a Connecticut town. Don't drive the wrong car. If you're not an arrogant jerk, get ready to have limited friends. It's written by a recent high school graduate, and his name is Slade Logsdon, if I'm pronouncing it right, Logsdon. We'll talk about that in the next half hour. I want to get to the phones real quick, and then I'll tell you about all of that in a second. Let's go to George in Canton. How are you, sir?
Well, greetings, Reese. How are you?
Pretty good, sir.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Two things quickly. First of all, I just looked it up. In the Quran, it states unequivocally it is a duty to lie to the infidel to further the progress of Islam. Right. It's a duty to lie. Therefore, how do you negotiate? Secondly, about that, Maya Angelou, and I don't know if she's a liberal or not. I don't know.
She was.
Okay. Well, she had a quote that I think is very germane to just about anything. When somebody tells you who they are, believe them.
I always love that quote.
That's not a conservative or liberal position, is it?
I don't think so.
So here the people are saying it is your duty to lie to further the defeating the infidel. Mm-hmm. And when we tell you who we are, believe us, from the river to the sea, right. Little Satan, big Satan. I don't understand Trump's trepidation. I trust him, but I don't understand anybody's trepidation.
May I propose
out
something to you, George? And give me, okay. I believe that there is his trepidation, in my view, and again, I'm just my assessment from understanding the man as much as I do. I feel like here is a man who promised us no foreign wars and an active aggression against against Iran would be committing the ultimate sin of, betraying what he told his supporters.
I certainly understand that. And I'm not a monger of war. For crying out loud, who would be in their right mind?
Yeah.
But this is metastasized. He ran party on this front that they can't have a bomb.
Yeah.
And since you can't trust them not to have a bomb, then what's the alternative? And the other thing, because I know time is precious here. The other thing about this person that killed the baby.
Yeah.
Now, and I know nothing about it. Am I to understand this child was of mixed race, black, white? Is that right?
According to her photograph, she appears to be of mixed race.
Okay. Now here's the thing, and this, I'm only saying this because other people that are, well, I'll just clarify. Barack Obama identifies as black.
Right.
But he's only half black.
Correct.
Tyrus on Gutfeld identifies as black.
Indeed.
I don't know how much he's of mixed race. He's Scottish, and Okay. And, oh, yeah, Elizabeth Warren identifies as
Native.
indigenous and Native American. Now, look, I'm all kidding aside. If that child is half black, then she should identify as black if Obama does, and therefore the father is black and he killed his own daughter. It's black on black crime.
Correct.
I mean, that doesn't seem very complicated either. You know, Sololinsky's key in Rules for Radicals is chaos. Create chaos. And that's what the left is doing in every way.
Yeah.
It is, you know, I mean, come on. I'm a logical, straight line thinker person. Gravity has no conscience. If Jeff Bezos or a homeless guy trip on the curb, fall over, gravity breaks your nose.
Right.
There isn't any, and this whole thing, it is so clear. I mean, good grief, it's clear. Anyway, I know time is precious.
That's okay, George, but I appreciate you. Missed you, and welcome back. Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
You got it. Again, this is, it's straight up and down. It just is. It's straight up and down. Anybody who sees it different is insane. It just is. All right, some of the regulars are on, so just forgive me. I want to get to this story while I have the time because I want the folks on the radio to hear it. So this is important. Anyway, opinion, trying to understand the exclusive nature of a Connecticut town. Don't drive the wrong car. If you're not an arrogant jerk, get ready to have limited friends. This is an article written by Slade Logsdon. He's a recent high school graduate. He writes, I've lived in New Caanan, Connecticut almost all my life, especially in high school. I noticed something about this little town. He says, as a freshman, the exclusionary nature of New Caanan was immediately apparent. As I grew older in my high school career, the problems faced by the kids of this town grew more apparent. Despite seeing these problems firsthand, I could never place the root of the issue. What caused New Caanan to be exclusive, riddled with drug use and alcoholism and self-harm in teens? It's a well-kept secret, but New Caanan, with gold-lined streets and award-winning public schools, has struggles kept below the surface. It's shocking to outsiders when anything bad happens in New Caanan. Really? That happened there? And I can totally understand that because I knew what a neighborhood like that as well growing up. So I understand. Anyway, let me move on. So people who are surprised by suicides, drug-related crimes, and DUI arrests that take place in New Caanan believe in the fairy tale dream life portrayed by many residents. Everyone puts up a face. Some are genuinely happy here. Most are simply expected to be happy here. So everyone acts it. Life in New Caanan can be summarized by a need to fit in. The root of this need lies in the history of my little town. Now, he goes on to talk about it being a sundowner state. You know, if you're not of a particular background, you had to be out of it by sundown. He says all of that and goes into the history. But then he says this. Not every New Caanan resident is in the bubble, because he's talking about that's the bubble that people live in here. While almost all are wealthy, there's a social bubble that contains the most elite members of society. To be in this social bubble of the uber wealthy in New Caanan, you need the following things. I thought this was interesting. A Range Rover, a country club membership, a child who plays football or lacrosse, being Anglo-Saxon, and a huge house on the west side of town. All of those things, and you're in. Something outsiders won't notice is the ridiculous car payments, steady stream of foreclosures, credit card debt, and mega mansions that are empty. That's right. Even in New Caanan, people can be house poor so they can join the club. Drive a Toyota, own a house you can actually afford, and keep your checkbooks balanced. You're smart, but you're far from popular. In fact, you'll be looked at sideways if you drive the wrong car, wear the wrong things, or even treat others with kindness. If you're not an arrogant jerk, get ready to have limited friends. Sounds a little backwards, right? This is clearly a destructive practice. Not only does it encourage an exclusionary sentiment among New Canaan youths, but it's fiscally draining. It's no longer the Gilded Age, where New Canaanites could print money faster than the U.S. Mint. While wealth inequality grows, so does the amount of millionaires. More and more people can afford to live in New Canaan on paper, but fewer and fewer can afford the lifestyle one needs to fit in. I don't know New Canaan all that well, but that is such a damning description of a town he grew up in. Now, I know people who may know the neighborhood. I want to hear from you. 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. If you read the article, yes. If you didn't, that's fine. If you know something about what he's talking about, please explain this to me. Here's why I even dove into this article. The Connecticut Mirror did an article that says, does Gen Z want to live in Connecticut after graduation? Well, they talked to 5 different individuals who had just graduated college, and every one of them said no. One of them moved here all the way from California. Another one from Texas. And of the other 3, born and raised here. Do not like it and wish to leave. Crazy, crazy. Their article is even more profound because it was me who said 3 weeks ago, I talked about it on the air, that Connecticut is a place where you end, not where you begin. Well, here's the Connecticut Mirror's article. The opening line of this Connecticut Mirror article. Connecticut has a reputation of being a nice place to settle down. It's not as well known for a place for starting out. I just said that 3 weeks ago. That is almost to the letter of what I said 3 weeks ago. So, if you want to opine about it, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. More news, more views. I got plenty of Connecticut stuff to get into. I got Chris Powell's got an article today talking about the No Kings piece. Also, tourism in Connecticut is down. Why? I have some theories. I'll talk about that as well, and I'll talk to you about them as well. So get on the phones, 860-522-WTIC. In a little bit, we're going to go to online, so you can join us. Don't worry, we're still doing the show. We're still here. Red Sox are beginning their game at about 4:10 today. Who are they playing against? I think Seattle? Yeah, they're playing against Seattle. So that game will be on WTIC, so you can listen to it there. And also, you can go to reseonradio.com. You can opine. You can get in the chat room. You can watch it there live as well. All right? So stick around. More news, more views than you can shake a stick at. We've also got weather and traffic coming up as well with Jason Catarino and Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. All right? So stick around. It's Reese on the Radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
It's Reese on the Radio. Ask your doctor if common sense is right for you. Right for you. On News Talk 1080, WTIC.
Yeah, we'll go to the phone soon, but don't forget, just go to reseonradio.com or go to WTIC.com, or if you've downloaded the Odyssey app, you can catch us online for the other half of the show. We got plenty of news and plenty of views to get into. Stupidest thing I read today involves Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Ed Markey, and our very own Chris Murphy, if you can believe that. We'll talk about that as well. I keep promising I'm going to get into this story about the Bridgeport students. I keep forgetting, or I get inundated with phone calls, so I forget about it. Also, we'll have our between rounds winner coming up as well. Slade Logsdon has written an article in the Hartford Courant about living in New Canaan and saying how it's, a bunch of people who are putting themselves in debt so they can be a bunch of arrogant jerks to the community. You guys who call up every day, free up the line so some new people can call in who want to call in. Please, guys, let's get to Reggie in Hartford. Hello, Reggie.
Hey, Reese. Listen, the last caller that you had on, who had spoke about the Quran.
Yes.
Okay. So tell him that misinformation or misleading information or just playing out, not reporting the whole fact is not right.
Okay, so what does the Quran read something other than that?
I'm about to let me. Okay, so what happens is that it says that the interpretation could be that you can lie in order for self-preservation for yourself, your family, or your community. Okay, it does not specifically say it's okay to lie in general. Okay, so let him.
Wait. Are you reading the quote or are you reading the interpretation, Reggie?
I didn't hear you.
Are you reading the exact quote or are you reading the interpretation?
That's what it says. It says it could be interpreted as.
Oh no! Well, don't read the interpretation. That's not fair not fair to George.
That's right. Well, tell George that he needs to say that.
Stop, Reggie. No, sir. You are here to counter. You are here to counter George's claim. In doing so, you are reading the interpretation and not the actual text. Can you do the actual text? Or I'll look it up myself. I'm just wondering if I'm giving you the opportunity.
Go ahead.
Okay, I can't do that now because I'm doing the show. But you're coming. Well, I'm doing the show. I can't just. I'm going to stop the show and go look it up. But my point to you is that as a person who's calling up the counter, and again, this is not a criticism. This is me helping. If you're going to counter someone's claim, don't read the interpretation. Read the actual text.
No, I wasn't reading the interpretation. I was telling part of it because I read down further in the in my search.
Okay.
Is that basically it says that you.
But it's giving you justification to lie, is what you're saying, right?
Just like eye for eye, tooth for tooth.
But it is giving you it goes without saying, though, Reggie. It is giving you justification to lie, regardless of what the reason is for. It is giving you justification to lie, right?
Well, our religion does.
Does it?
Yes, it does.
I have a 10 Commandments that I'm very, very positive says not to bear false witness. Does it not?
I'm sorry, say that again. Yeah, it does.
We have a commandment that says not to bear false witness, right? That means that isn't my religion telling me not to lie, correct? That would be a religion that explicitly says that one of its commandments is not to lie, dispelling the line that you just uttered that all religions do it. We have an explicit text that says thou shalt not bear false witness.
But our religion, if it's not giving it permission to lie, it does have contradictions in it.
All right, that you know what? That in and of itself is a separate issue. But I just want to make sure I'm using exact words here. But Reggie, I appreciate it nonetheless. Thank you for the call, sir. I got to take a break. Let's get our first check of the weather and traffic with our good friend Jason Catarina, who is back and after a really painful surgery, and thank God he's okay. And also Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark. Reese on the radio, NewsTalk 1080 WTIC, or as they're liking me to say now, WTIC NewsTalk 1080. We're back. Of course, if you wish to give us a call, it's 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. At this point, we have got to give a congratulations to Orlando O. out of Waterbury. He is today's winner of a dozen bagels a month for 6 months, courtesy of Between Rounds, the Bagel Bakery and Sandwich Cafe, located in South Windsor, Vernon, and Manchester. And I want to give again a shout-out to Jerry of Between Rounds and, of course, Karen Thomas at the Friendly Hands Food Bank. They finally got their check. That was also about the Reese's Peanut Butter and Jelly Sandwich giveaway. And they're going to be doing some more stuff. I can't wait to hear what they're going to do next. I think we're going to do something every month, or at least Between Rounds is going to do something every month that's sort of like that, where they're going to be helping out different charities. I don't know what the details are, but they haven't really, confirmed all of them. I may be telling tales out of school without their permission. I apologize, but they've got some great things going on. I don't think I'm telling any bad stories out of school. I just, think that what they're doing is great, and the fact that they were inspired to do it is perfect. I want to play this for those of you listening, what's his name? Harry Enton. He is the pollster over at CNN. He did a poll recently, I guess today, about what people think about engaging with Israel in stopping the proliferation of nuclear material or a nuclear weapon by Iran. I haven't heard this yet, so you and I are hearing it for the first time, but the headline says that a lot of Democrats are on board, as well as Republicans.
And overall, I feel like there's more support for Donald Trump's positions than is comically acknowledged. Oppose Iran getting a nuclear weapon. I mean, look at this. 79% of adults agree on that. They agree with Donald Trump. Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon. 83% of Republicans, 79% of independents, 79% of Democrats. When you get 79% of Democrats and 83% of Republicans agreeing on anything, you know that that position is the very clear majority in this country. And so the American public is with Donald Trump. They definitely oppose Iran getting nuclear weapons.
It's Reese on the radio. And don't say we didn't warn you on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
Yeah, so this article that this young man wrote, Slade Logsdon, who says that people in New Caanan are willing to put or to be house poor just so they could be a part of the crowd, I just thought was, I don't know, just a damning indictment of just one town in Connecticut. And I'm seeing these young people who are writing these articles about their neighborhoods, and it never sounds great. They really hate Connecticut. And I don't get it. This other article by the Connecticut Mirror, does Gen Z want to live in Connecticut after graduation? We asked. Connecticut has a reputation of being a nice place to settle down. It's not as well known as a place for starting out. State and local leaders have been working to retain young talent, in part by promoting economic development and adding new housing in city centers. But what do members of the Gen Z labor force actually want from places they live? Well, this is my interpretation of that. The results are sad. It's sad. To find out, the Connecticut Mirror spoke with 5 recent graduates from both public and private universities in the state about their hopes for life after graduation and whether Connecticut fits into that vision. While their paths diverge, some planning to stay, others preparing to leave, they share a common concern: affordability. Whether dreaming of bigger cities, warmer climates, or simply more walkable neighborhoods, each of them is weighing the cost of staying in a state where housing is expensive, public transit is limited, and opportunities can feel unevenly distributed. Yet their stories also reveal what makes Connecticut worth holding on to and what might convince them to stick around. Here's what they had to say. Now, I'm going to go through a list of them, but I'm kind of going to go out of order. By the way, you can check out the article in the Connecticut Mirror if you wish to play along. But there was one at the end. I'm going to go to that one first. And was it at the end? No, maybe not. I'm sorry. It may have been the second young lady who was on here. And it was the thing that I found that was so bad. Here it is. Yes, this is the young lady. Her name is Leela Molly. She's 22 years old, went to the University of Connecticut, UConn, of course. She's graduating this year. She's living in Howington. Leela has lived in Connecticut her whole life. But after graduating from UConn this spring, she's headed to Boston to start working as an audit associate at an accounting firm. I'm not in love with Connecticut, she admitted. There's not really much to do or stuff that I love. Molly grew up in Connecticut. She chose an in-state school for tuition benefits, but she said she's ready for a change, both personally and professionally. She says, that's more how my parents feel, that I'm deserting them, she said. They're like, everything's here. And I'm like, not really. I don't feel a reason to stay, and I'm excited to go somewhere else. Calling herself someone who comes from a cow town, Molly said her view of Connecticut might have been different if she'd spent more time in places like Stamford or New Haven. While she sees potential in those cities, she's more excited by the energy and public transit options in Boston. That's the thing that Connecticut is missing. In Connecticut, I can't just hop on a bus and go to Hartford. There's just a lot of ways to get in and out of the city of Boston. Though Boston is one of the most expensive cities to live in the country, Molly doesn't see Connecticut as being all that much more affordable. It's way too expensive for what you get, she said. It's like a sandwich. It's between two really nice, better options. So it's like, why would you choose Connecticut? And here's the quote. It's a state you drive through. It's not a state you live in. And I'm like, yeesh. That couldn't be more damning for young people. And I don't know that Connecticut, I don't get the impression that Connecticut is a place that could appeal to young people. I will tell you this. When I was younger, was it my 30s? Yeah, it had to have been. Well, I'm 55 now, so it's in 2004. Yeah, all right, I was in my 30s. And I get to Hartford, Connecticut. And again, you work at a hip-hop station. So working at a hip-hop station, you got to be around the hip-hop guys, the hip-hop clubs, the hip-hop events. There weren't a lot. There were some. Kids were really trying to sort of establish itself as a place where hip-hop was. So young people got along. You had to go to Meriden in a lot of cases. You couldn't really be in Hartford. There were a lot of places on the outskirts to go hang out. And I've been to them. I'd gone to them. West Hartford, of course. Not for hip-hop stuff, but just cultural things. And I remember going to downtown Hartford at a nightclub that was down the block. I can't remember which one it was. Maybe somebody can help me. It was down the block from the Burger King, across the street from Morton's, right off the main road. But there was a nightclub that was right on the corner on the opposite end, right across the street from, I guess, what's now the former XL Center. Anyway, there was a nightclub there. Not a big place, relatively small, but it was. And I remember that was the first time I was ever in the city limits. And then wanted to go back and said, let's go check out the city. And we did during the day, on a weekday. And the place was a barren wasteland. Nothing. A couple of people standing around waiting to get on the bus. It's like people were there like they had to be, like people were just coming from the Department of Motor Vehicles, maybe, dealing with something that was, state or federal, like, I don't know, getting a passport. It just had that appeal. Wasn't a lot of shopping. Businesses, people walking back and forth, going to get lunch, that kind of deal. But it didn't seem like it was bustling. And a person who told me, they said, that was the word they used. They said it was a ghost town on the weekends. That there was nothing to do in the city limits, unless there was a concert going on. And I thought that was bad for the capital city. It just seemed like it didn't cater to young people. That's 20 years ago. It just did not. And I could understand people who would take the drive to New Haven or Bridgeport or go to Boston and make it a weekend, like you sort of had to. But my question is, and I think a lot of people question, how do you possibly make Hartford jump? How do you make it thriving? You can't do it with, movie theaters, clearly the concert thing. You can't do it. Sports events are great, but that's not how you get people into the city. Shopping never works because you have the malls, and those aren't doing well either. And I said this a long time ago. I remember when I always tell that story about Amazon when somebody first introduced it to me, and I said, it'll never work. That's where people are now. Everything you want, you can get from Amazon. So that experience of going out to shop almost seems like a chore. Shopping used to be fun. At least it still is for my wife. She likes to go, but she's kind of a Target person. I guess that's still a thing. I kind of like the brick and mortar thing. I'm taking my wife to Target, makes her feel like she's done something. She's calling it dilly-dallying now. But I don't think there's a lot of that going on. And I don't even know how you ask people what would be the thing that would drive you into the city. What would be the thing that we could have that would make you come to the center of town? There's just nothing. And I know New York is kind of a landmark place, so you have things like the skyscrapers and you have Times Square. I don't know if you can could you bring? No, I don't think that would work either. I think those little attractions that they have in Times Square, like the guys who are dressed up as Elmo and all that stuff, I don't know if you could do that and that would be much of a difference. Restaurants could help. I mean, I guess they would, but those are everywhere, especially if they're by the mall. So that almost seems pointless. Do you ever have to go to the city for anything, Roland, or do you avoid it like the plague? Like Hartford at all? Has that ever been a place for you to hang out for anything?
Just going to the games.
That's just the games, right? So it's like nothing.
Either the Yard Goats games or basketball games at the Civic Center. Civic Center. That's way back.
Yeah. Well, now
whatever it is now, I don't even know
what's
it's
it
called.
It's called the People's, not the People's Choice Arena. I'm forgetting the name of it now. I just remember I had it written down here because it was the XL. Now it's something else.
Yeah.
They just changed it to the People's Arena or something like that. I'll look it up. But maybe Mark Christopher can tell me what it is. But the town doesn't have restaurants and things like that. Is Morton still there or Ruth Chris? Which is the steak restaurant that's right there?
It's not Ruth Chris.
No, it isn't. I think it's Morton's too. I'm almost certain it's Morton's.
They still got some. I mean, yeah. Well, if you're talking about entertainment, but if you're talking about food, yeah, then you can go there. I don't go there to eat. But
you don't go there to eat at all?
There's a lot. I don't live in Hartford, so.
Well, even if you could, like I'm saying, like what would be the attraction that would bring a younger demographic and foot traffic to the main city, right? Just off Sigourney and into the main square. Nothing, right?
Yeah, no, not really.
There are no nightclubs in the city anymore.
Yeah, they used to, that was a big draw. They had like about 5 or 6 in the same kind of area. You still got the Russell. People go out to the Russell.
Okay. What is that? Is it any kind of music at the Russell?
Yeah, depends on the day. I believe it's mostly like hip hop and
okay. Well,
R&B.
Richard says that live theater in Hartford is good. I mean, I'm assuming
Hartford Stage.
Right, the Hartford Stage. Yeah, he thought the Theater Works is great, and the Bushnell.
Yeah, and the Bushnell. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean those staples in the area. But in order to do that in the center of city, not only do you have to have the money, but the entertainment has got to be worth you coming out like that. I've got to see, and I don't know if Hartford has the draw power. When's the last time you ever heard a guy say, "Hey, that time when we played in Hartford was the bomb"? Like, I don't.
Well, they have some good like Broadway shows that come, so you gotta.
That's good. Okay.
To the Bushnell, so I'll go to the Bushnell probably like 2 or 3 times a year.
A year?
Yeah.
Can you remember the last thing you saw there?
Not Pinocchio. It was one of those
Disney performances.
Yeah, one of those. Oh, you know what? It was it was Michael Jackson on Broadway.
Oh, okay. Oh, the Michael Jackson sort of revival kind of deal.
Yeah.
Where they had the impersonator with the dancers and all that stuff. Oh, that's actually a good show.
Yeah, it was a good show.
That's a good show.
It was a good show.
Yeah, I bet you that. Yeah. See, again,
it was packed too.
Oh, I can only imagine because it's so limited. But that's great. Did you guys have the Blue Man Group ever? Was that ever a thing?
Well, long time ago.
Long time ago, right?
Yeah,
they finally.
I think they came to the XL Center before.
I remember that, and I remember they brought Stomp to to Connecticut for a little while, and it just wasn't the same.
They have the Cirque du Soleil.
That's
that
good.
Usually draws
That's a big
too.
draw.
Mm-hmm.
That is a big draw. So that's what I'm saying. You have to be consistent in making the city pop over and over again. And in order to do that, you have to have like that kind of mainstay that people go, look, in New York, you've got the Copa. You've got, we used to have the Tunnel. We used to have the Limelight. Those things over and over again, tend to draw the same crowds, if not people, to the town to experience that thing. I don't think Hartford's figured that out yet. I don't think they have. Right. Richard also says the Infinity Theater as well. It just had, I don't know. It's just, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing these stories about these kids who just don't want to stay. And I don't think that, it may not be Hartford. It may have to be a town outside of the city that actually turns it around to get people to stay here. But I don't think young people are going to stay. They're going to make their bones elsewhere and then, maybe settle down back home, taking over the homes of their parents. That's how you get back to Connecticut. Anyway, I just saw it. It's an article. Both of them I thought intrigued me. We'll talk about it. We'll get to more when we return. Stupidest thing I read today is coming up, so stick around. That's coming up as well. And what else do I have? Oh, the tourism fall based on European cities who are not coming to Connecticut anymore. That's an interesting thing because there's a lot of historic stuff in Connecticut that people no longer find interest in. So that story's coming up as well. I'll get a check on the scores, if there are any, in the Red Sox game. For now, let's get weather and traffic with Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher, who's in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark, what was the name of the is it the steakhouse that's in the center of town? Is it Morton's or Ruth Chris?
It's not. Ruth Chris is in Newington. Okay. Morton's is downtown.
Is downtown. It's still there. Okay.
Yep.
That's the one I'm looking at.
Yeah, and then there's Max downtown, which is a great steakhouse right across from the People's Bank Arena.
The People's Bank Arena. There it is.
It's on Asylum, so that's another steakhouse. And our good friends at Carbone's Restaurant going to be opening up. I'm not sure if it's a steak restaurant, but they're reopening up a restaurant down where the old movie theater used to be, right near the Infinity Theater.
Infinity Theater, yeah.
Yep. So, I'll tell you, back in the day when the Whalers were in town and when they had concerts in Hartford, it was slamming down there. You had a stretch from the Civic Center down to the train station, full bars everywhere. It was crazy. I don't go down there much anymore because I'm a little bit older. But but there was a time when it was a hopping little place, but it's got a ways to go. Hopefully it will come back someday. Yeah. But right now, obviously since COVID, it's really taken a pretty hard hit.
We're back. It's Reese on the radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC. Let's do this thing.
Yes, you do. Stupid as can be. This could very well be the stupidest person on the face of the earth.
Dumb.
Stupidest thing I read today comes out of, I think this article was in the Boston Globe today. At a moment when many Americans are troubled by the role that top Republican donor Elon Musk played in shaping the Trump administration's policies, Senator Bernie Sanders and 7 fellow senators are calling on the Democrat Party leaders to take a sharp break with their own billionaire donors by banning super PAC and dark money from Democratic primaries. The Vernon Independent and his colleagues are seizing a moment of turmoil for the Democrat Party to demand that Democrats begin cleaning their own house by restricting the influence of wealthy donors and powerful corporate interests in Democratic contests. Sanders is attempting to reshape the direction of the party with his Fighting the Oligarchy tour. Yeah, someone finally realized that when you're trying to fight the oligarchy, maybe don't take money from the oligarchy. Perhaps. He says, quote, "The American people are disgusted with a corrupt political system that allows Elon Musk to spend $270 million to elect Donald Trump." The senators who also signed the letter were Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer. That's Chucky Schumer. Democratic National Committee Chair Ken Martin, which was obtained by the Washington Post. Also on that list was none other than Elizabeth Warren, Chris Murphy, Jeff Merkley, Peter Welch, Tina Smith, Ed Markey, and Chris Van Hollen. They argued that many voters have lost faith in the political system because wealthy donors like Musk have played an outside role of shaping the outcome of elections. That's included the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, which brands itself as the America's pro-Israel lobby, which has poured millions of dollars into defeating progressive candidates. So there's nothing really honest in all of this. This coalition has fought progressive candidates, and they played a role in defeating Bernie Sanders. This is personal. But if they're going to get billions of dollars out of Democrat politics, I got to be honest with you folks, you're going to see a wild person come out of nowhere who's going to be the Democrat leader. It could be AOC. This changes everything. If they really do stick by this could change a lot. We'll keep an eye on it. We got no election for a while, but we'll keep an eye on it. Let's get another check on the weather and traffic with Jason Catarina and Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
And around the country, get local news, traffic, and weather from stations near you. Get national news from CNN, Fox News Radio, and more. And explore the biggest news podcasts like The Daily Punch, Pod Save America, and The Daily, AUDACY. Find all the news that matters to you in a universe of audio. Odyssey.
The self-proclaimed love child of Rush Limbaugh.
They're running a strange program, y'all.
Reese on the radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
Yeah, this story about Karen Reed is everywhere. I mean, I don't know anybody who isn't talking about it, but it is everywhere. On tomorrow's program, when we return, there is a new report that Kash Patel has sent to Chuck Grassley about the third rail of political conversations, the 2020 election. If you haven't heard about this, look it up. It is a story no one is talking about, and everyone should. There will be people who will try to poo-poo it, but this is a huge story. There are so many ramifications behind this story. You know, if you were wondering, why didn't the Biden administration respond to the big giant balloon? Remember that? That went over America? Why was there just all of this capitulation and, refusal to talk to China about COVID-19? This new report shines so much light on all that other stuff. We'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll probably do it in the opening monologue. No one's talking about it. We were told never to discuss it. But it may be, with everything that's going on, we had a hearing today, talk about the cognitive decline of Joe Biden that Democrats didn't show up to, which I thought was so hilarious. We'll probably have some audio of that tomorrow as well. But now to find out this new information with China, the 2020 election, ballot printing, that there's evidence to support this, the censoring of a president of the United States. There's so much to unpack. We got to save it for tomorrow because there's audio, there's everything, there's a whole bunch of stuff. It's such a mess, and so many people are going to want to chime in about this. I know Simsbury Joe is going to want to say something about it. Kim, Pat, everybody is going to want to say something about it. So we'll give them an opportunity to do that tomorrow. Let's get to the phones. 860-522-WTIC. Fulton, how we doing, sir?
Oh, boy, that sounds like a good one tomorrow.
Yeah, man.
Should have saved my phone call for that one, but no. My question today, I got one for you today. So who do you think is less safe? A person that's like a 50-year-old in Tehran, a 15-year-old black in Chicago?
I didn't hear any of that. Try one more time.
Hang on. Let me take you off speaker.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
That works better.
50-year-old, you hear me now? Okay, 50-year-old black in Chicago.
Okay, you said Chicago. All I heard was Chicago.
50-year-old black kid in Chicago.
Yeah.
Or a 50-year-old kid, Iranian kid in Tehran. Who's less safe right now?
I would say a kid in Chicago is probably less safe.
That's sad, right? Because that's going to be a war zone. Like, think about that.
I mean, it is. It is. I mean, we had a time, Fulton, in this country where there were more deaths in the city of Chicago than the active war zone that is in Iraq. They were calling it Chirac.
No one says anything like that. This is nuts.
Yeah.
Like, black-on-black crime is worse than what's going on in Iran now and like, freaking Ukraine.
You know what? I mean, I will say that, a war is a war is a war. But, yeah, it's not a safe place. But I think it's insane what's happening to Chicago. Brandon Johnson, that mayor, forget about it. He is not long for that city. That's a wrap. I don't know who's going to run against him, but he's not long for that city.
So just going worse. They went from
Lori Lightfoot, to this guy.
Pants and a fire.
Whoever thought that Lori Lightfoot would have the legitimate response to Brandon Johnson with the quote, "Miss me yet?"
Right, like, he's like, "Hold my rainbow cup. Watch this." You're like, what?
Yeah, I mean, oh, goodness gracious, this guy is an absolute mess. Now he's gone one step further with everything, and I think this is to save some sort of face with the black community who's out to get him. He's got a 6 to 7% approval rating. Now he's doing a reparations task force. And even that's not wooing people in Connecticut. So if you can't get if you can't get them with reparations, you're done for. That's all I can say.
I want to say, what happened to malls? Malls used to be amazing to hang out with. Like being a teenager, you go to a mall, you meet girls. Nobody wants to do that anymore.
Yeah, I think, gosh, I'm going to say something controversial here. Ted Kaczynski was right in a small part of his manifesto, sir. And that was the advent of the internet was going to keep people from interacting on a human level, like on a person-to-person level.
For that.
Huh?
You know who invented the internet?
Oh, Al Gore.
Part of DARPA? Jeff Bezos' grandfather.
Oh, really?
Yeah, look that up. I swear, I looked that one up. Jeff Bezos' grandfather is the founder of DARPA, the government agency.
Oh, you know what? I got to look that up now. Thank you, buddy. Let me get to one more. Let's go to Craig's in the car. What's going on, buddy?
I got ADD again, buddy. So many topics.
That's fine.
I want to do a dive into Connecticut and what we were talking about before, but as far as the Democrats and who's going to rise, do not underestimate Stephen A. Smith. He checks a lot of the boxes on the other side that Trump did.
Okay.
He's going to get some of the bro vote because of his ESPN stuff. He's going to get some of the black vote, and it's common sense. The guy talks common sense.
But he's not sounding.
He's
not sounding like a Democrat. He's sounding very moderate in the sense of I can't peg him.
But in the beginning, Trump didn't sound like a Republican. He just sounded like, right? We all said, Trump's not a Republican. I'm not voting for that guy.
Right. I will admit, I was one of the people when he ran. I was a Ted Cruz guy because that guy at least, he had the Rehnquist angle. He was a Reagan conservative. That was Ted Cruz was the guy. I jumped on that and I said, and it took me very late. It took Donald Trump to win the South Carolina primary before I said, okay, it's time to jump ship because there's clearly no path for anybody else. So I was very late,
right?
And on purpose as a reasonable person. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Ted Cruz checked all the boxes back 8 years ago, and 4 years ago, DeSantis checked all the boxes. But checking the boxes, that doesn't win you an election.
Yeah,
it doesn't.
It does. You know why? Because it's no longer politics as usual. And I think you and I know that, and a lot of people know that now. I think the thing that's Democrats are having the biggest problem with is not reconciling that it's not politics as usual. The stuff that's supposed to get you hammered and kicked out of politics, especially for a guy like Donald Trump, only surges with him. the lawfare was supposed to, forget about it. He's going to jail. There's no way anybody's going to vote for him. They tried to convince us every day, you're really going to vote for a felon? You're really going to vote for a felon? And people embraced it. They were like, yep, he's got my vote.
Well, I think the majority of Americans, the reason why politics as usual doesn't matter is because most people don't give a bleep about the politics.
Yeah, indeed.
They care about the substance. They care, right? So take the politics out of it. Trump got a lot of us to vote for him, even though I'm a Republican, I'm conservative, and I've been on town committees, I've been all that, but the guy makes sense. And I think Stephen A. Smith is the same track. Really do.
You don't think Democrats take him out? Even if they try. I mean, what I'm saying is, on Democrat politics, when Democrats seek to take you out, they succeed. They couldn't do that in Republican politics or with Donald Trump. I think they've got a better shot with eliminating a surging Stephen A. Smith and it having the effect.
Way.
You don't think so?
No way, because Democrats want to be in power, and they'll follow whoever they need to follow stay in power. Have you heard Lindsey Graham talk about Donald Trump in the last 60 days?
Yeah, I know.
He's the biggest fanboy there is.
I know.
Right? Keep us in power, man. We'll fall in line. Yes, sir. How high do you want me to jump?
Yeah, you're right. Okay, I'm going to watch him just because, Greg, I trust you. I'm going to watch Stephen A. Smith. I thought about it a long time ago, and I said, you know what? The guy's getting some prominence there. He could, but I think the party's gone so far left, and they are really, they've got such a stronghold of the Democrat Party, the far left, that a guy like Stephen A. Smith, even if he were to become a populist, they try to take him out in some way. But I don't know.
We'll talk about Connecticut another time, but I want you to go back and I want you to watch Ann Coulter when she was on that panel. I don't know if it was
Bill Maher,
CNN or MSNBC or whatever, and Bill Maher, right? And they asked her, "Who's the most likely person to become president?"
Out of the declared,
Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And they almost laughed her out of the building.
Joy Reid was on that panel, and she had the biggest shocked face of them all. And isn't it? I find the irony there that under Trump's resurgence as president of the United States ended up being her demise off MSNBC. It's incredible. It's a look back at that, and it's true.
I just see so many parallels between those two people, and I'll tell you what, Stephen A. Smith is a lot like Bill Maher. I bet you if you put Stephen A. Smith and Donald Trump together in an interview, it would come out just like the Bill Maher thing did.
Probably.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, likely, strongly likely. All right, I'm going to pay attention to it now. Since you brought it up, I'll keep a close eye on it. We'll see. We'll see very soon. Thanks, Greg. I appreciate you, sir. Yeah, again, he is. I think that he's an electric figure politically, but I'll say this, and I'm going to watch him. Like I said, do I know whether or not people will accept him politically in that way or as a political figure? I can't tell you, but I know where I have my issues with him, and it appears in a lot of ways that he is so brand new to this. Not like Donald Trump, who had to deal with politicians in his business, right? So there was a parallel to some degree with Donald Trump as a real estate guy, having to deal with heavy hitters like the Schumers, opening up businesses across the country or buildings and real estate across the country and internationally. So him having to cater to, if not be catered to by, elected officials, relationships like he had with the Clintons. Those things put him in the proximity of politics all the time. Stephen A., and I said this a long time ago, I read an article, I'll find the name of it, because I think it's a book you should read. It's a great book. It talks about how sports writers hate writing for sports and really want to get into politics. That for them, it's a natural progression to go from sports writing to politics. And I think in the book, well, my example was Mike Lupica, who wrote for the New York Daily News. Right, wrote for the Daily News, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, started writing political pieces for the Daily News. And I'd known Lupica forever, talking about sports. I grew up with him on Yankees and Mets. And then all of a sudden, I was noticing he was getting these editorials inside the Daily News about politics. And I'm going, I don't want to read politics from Mike Lupica. Why would I do that? What does he know? And how would I know what he does know? Of course, he probably follows politics. I just feel that way about Stephen A. It isn't natural enough of a progression. That's where I'm holding my water on this one. I'm going, there is no way. I did not see any sort of a brewing progression where I can see some of the politics in sports that he then brought to. It just seems like a turning of a switch. Maybe I'm wrong. You tell me if I'm wrong. Craig thinks I'm wrong. He thinks that I think he's learning on the job. But that may be great for him right now. That gives him another 2-3 years for him to actually figure out this whole politics thing. Hell, Barack Obama had less time. He had 180 days present. Guy was like elected, he took office in 2006. He was running by 2007. For all intents and purposes, Stephen A. will have far more experience than Barack Obama did at the time. I'm just saying. Just saying. All right, we'll come up with some more news and some more views when we return. Our last hour is coming up. I still didn't even check out the Red Sox score. I'm sure John Silva will tell us. Oh, it's tied. Okay. Red Sox are playing in Seattle. Tied 1-1 the bottom of the third. And, yeah, go Red Sox. Let's see if they can improve. They're just over 500. So the Mariners. In fact, they're practically even. Let's get another check of weather and traffic. Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
The big showdown on Friday night.
Who's that?
Going to San Francisco.
Oh, yeah. That's you.
Getting to hang with Raffy Devers, who will now play any position for the San Francisco Giants.
Isn't that crazy?
Some different scenery, no angst against the ownership out there. He's like, you know what? I'll play any position you want.
Yeah,
so
sure. Where's he going to go now? What position is he going to play for San Fran?
I don't know. He's DHing right now. I assume he's DH in maybe third or first. But, yeah, you could see the animosity that grew between him and the Red Sox management, which the Red Sox management, their upper management, is not – it's very easy to not to like. You know,
I know.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Hey, if you're heading –
Hey, we're back.
The hour that packs a punch. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
We're back. It's Reese on the radio on News Talk 1080. And I am working very, very hard right now. I just got this look from my wife, who just looked me right in the face. And nothing upsets me more than to see her disappointed. Because, I got to take a trip. It's important that I take a trip. And she wanted to come with, and she worked out every way for her to come with me. And she can't. It's not going to happen. And so the look on her face when she has to say, I guess you're going to have to go by yourself. It's just devastating. It's like I'm committing a crime. That's what I feel like. I can't, it's not, look, I'm just not rich, and sometimes the expense is just too much. It's a lot of money. Traveling today, it's through the roof. Everything costs a crap load of money.
You gotta find the cheap sites, man.
We went through the cheap sites. It's just because and again, it's not a big deal. It's not supposed to happen until the end of July. If anything, I can make it at the end of July, then it'll probably be cheaper. But even when we're trying to save money, because we got a big thing coming, the end of the month is the boy's birthday. It's his 18th birthday. It's a big deal. and she's trying to be that mom, who buys the big gift on the 18th birthday, I just say cut the kid a check or do like my mom did, when my mom said, she never got a chance to, but she said she'd buy me some matching luggage and a one-way ticket. That's what she said for my 18th birthday. Buy him a ticket to go somewhere. That's all you have to do. You don't have to spend all that money. But to have her not be able to go, and then the look on her face and have to tell her, maybe you should go by yourself. Now I got to work it out so she can go, so I don't feel like crap. Let's get another check of the weather and traffic. Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher is in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
Reese on the radio is getting ready to drop some knowledge on WTIC News Talk 1080.
We'll be back in a second to talk about this Rhode Island, Vermont, and Connecticut report that says that tourism is down across the state, which is very sad. We're going to break down all of them from New Hampshire is also on the list, but we'll take your phone calls now. 860-522-WTIC. Let's go to Dave in Ellington. Hello, sir.
Let me ask you this question.
Yes.
Where are you going that you're not going to take your wife with you?
Connecticut.
Well, I wouldn't take her to Connecticut either, okay? I would definitely not do that because I'm in the midst of getting the hell out of here.
She says to me just a minute ago, she goes, do you have to go a whole week? And I'm like, no, I can make the trip shorter. I mean, we're moving there anyway. We're coming anyway. But she's making...
You're moving to Connecticut?
Yeah, of course.
You know what's going to happen to your taxes?
I'm well aware. We've worked it out. We worked it out.
All right.
Thank you, Ann.
So here's another thing I got to say.
Yes, what you got?
So everybody's, lack of a better word, pissing and moaning about Trump saying, I don't know whether we're going to do it or I don't know whether we're not going to do it. Well, he hasn't made his decision yet. Two people have to understand what happens if he drops this bomb.
And that's all it is. I mean, to break it all down.
He already told the people from Tehran, leave.
Right.
Tehran's only 60 miles away.
Well, it's Tehran, but yeah.
The repercussions they could get from that bomb being dropped, even though it's underground, could be astronomical.
I think, I think this is strategic in this sense. One, I know he understands the ramifications. There was a long game here. Iran will never, ever forget. We're already in hostile situations with Iran as it stands. This would be a hostile...
1979,
right.
Just to make it clear.
Exactly. This would be a hostile act. They would take it that way, and every day we'd be looking over our shoulder to make sure there wasn't
But
some
how
cell.
how can Iran turn around and say, if the U.S. gets involved in this, it's going to be all-out war? So Iran's already declared war on the U.S. if Trump drops his bomb.
No, and again, you're 100%. Dave,
52 hostages.
Dave, you are 100% right. Like, what difference would it make in this regard? However, that's the point that I'm making. If indeed you drop this bomb, you actually eradicate their nuclear program, and then something happens on your watch. Some cell is activated in the United States because you know damn well they got in here. And then there's this calamitous. Well, yeah, right. And then something dire happens under that. That is, no one trusts your administration at all. It's your fault. Why did you do it? Blah, blah, blah. Hindsight is 20/20. That whole thing. So I think that with that being said, I think Donald Trump's playing it right to the line. It just goes, we're going to do it.
I do too. I mean, it's like, oh, well, I woke up today. I said, I'm going to do it.
Right.
And then I went to bed last night and I said, no, I'm not going to do it.
Right. I think, yeah, you're with me on this one. And I think you and I are correct in always giving the impression I'm a minute, a second, an hour, a day away from saying I'm going to bomb you.
My two fingers, I'd take my index fingers and my thumb and put them together. You see the space between them? There is none.
Right.
Okay?
I hear you. You're 100% right.
Iran has to understand.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Thank you, Dave. I was thinking as he was talking about that line Wesley when he's telling the princess about the Dread Pirate Roberts. For those of you who know the film, The Princess Bride. And he talks about the time when he was captured by the Dread Pirate Roberts, and the Dread Pirate Roberts kept saying to him every day, tomorrow I will most certainly kill you. Tomorrow I will most certainly kill you. And he just kept saying that for years and years and years, and finally he told him, I'm not the Dread Pirate Roberts. You know, I took it over for some other guy, and then he became the Dread Pirate Roberts. But that was the whole thing. I think that there is this thing going on with Donald Trump where he's just constantly baiting Iran and saying, yeah, tomorrow we're going to bomb you. He doesn't bomb you. I was like, yeah, you know, we're thinking about bombing you, but yeah, we don't think enough people have evacuated Tehran. We'll see you tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow we'll bomb you. And I think that that's the objective here. Dave might be spot on here. 860-522-WTIC. Let's go to Mike in Plainville. Hello, Mike.
Hello there. On your show tomorrow, you mentioned about the previous 4 years with Biden. Now, not one thing that comes out tomorrow would surprise me at all after everything that's gone on. Not one thing.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, there's so many.
How much worse? Can you tell me how much worse it is than what we already know? Can you put it on
here's
a
the best.
scale?
Here's the best way I could put it on the scale. It's a 10 out of 10. It's that much of a scale. But here's the best part about all of it. And I know it's the reason why the mainstream media isn't going to cover it until they are forced to, or they are forcing themselves to find a way to dispel it or disprove it. It's what Donald Trump said in a tweet that turned out to be 100% true. He was never lying about it. And even though it was something plenty of Republicans were cringing at and pushing back on him about, and even went so far, Sean Hannity is even one of the people who may have to apologize to the President of the United States in saying that he should let go of the 2020 election. Anyone who said Donald Trump should let go of the 2020 election, why does he keep talking about it, has egg on their face today because of this information. That's how bad it is. And the worst part is that the government knew about it, the FBI knew about it, Department of Homeland Security knew about it, the CIA knew about it, the White House knew about it. They all knew.
This thing with Iraq, I don't know. It's this complex that they have in northern Iraq is too large for.
You mean Iran?
Special operation. Iran. Yeah, it's too far inland for special operations to go in. It's too big. You wouldn't be able to send a 12 or a 16-man team in there. They wouldn't have enough ammunition or
I don't think
explosives.
You're right.
Ordnance to do it anonymously. Or secretly, the only way is to get them by the air.
Yes. From the last reports I saw today, I think the Iran has the ability to mobilize at least 1.5 million soldiers. That includes soldiers inside, or Iranians alone, the Houthis, Hamas, and Hezbollah. That's how many.
I wouldn't want to be in Donald Trump's shoes tonight. I mean, this is a big one. It really is. You don't know what you hit that white-faced hornet, the bee's nest. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why there's a will he or won't he kind of ordeal going on. We'll know when he makes a decision. I don't think he's going to. I mean, unless it's necessary. But Donald Trump has a tendency to surprise us. And turn out that
I can't wait. I can't wait for your show tomorrow.
You got it, boss man. Thank you, Mike. Let's go to Bill in Southington. Hello, Bill.
Hey, Reese. How are you?
I'm good, sir. What's up?
That's good to hear. Couple things. Number one, if they attack, people are worried if they drop a bomb on that, we're going to have radiation leaked.
Yeah.
Well, you got to think back to 40s and 50s when they were testing all those atomic bombs.
Right.
Nobody was worried about radiation back then. I mean, it went into the atmosphere and that was the end of it. The other point I was going to make is, as far as Hartford is concerned, Roland thought he had the Patriots in the bag, so he let the Whalers walk away. And that was huge to downtown Hartford. It was part of the identity of Hartford. You drew crowds in. And, you know, they wanted to upgrade the Civic Center. Well, they're doing it now, and as the state always does, you know, the horse is out of the barn.
Yeah.
You know, to try and you're going to be competing with the casinos. All the big shows go to the casinos now.
Right.
They don't even think about Hartford, you know, but they're going to upgrade the Civic Center. You should have done that.
But don't
way
you
back
think,
when?
but Bill, don't you think, I've always thought of this of Mohegan Sun when I lived in Hartford. I hated that drive. Mohegan Sun was a great place. Don't get me wrong.
Today.
But I think a lot of people hate that drive.
I do as well. You know, it's an hour drive down there.
Easy drive.
Interested in going to, but I'm like, I'm not going to drive all that way. You know, it's a pain in the neck.
Yeah, but
you know,
see, Roland's in the background. Roland said it's an easy drive. Well, Roland, I want you to
Foxwoods. That's the dumb drive because you got to go 8 miles of street.
Yeah, that's true. Foxwoods is considerable, but I want you to consider this, Roland, in that whole deal with, you know, saying it's an easy drive. We're looking at an older populace that would be going to the shows at Mohegan Sun, right? They're going to see groups like,
Thank you.
You know,
exactly.
they're going to see groups like Rod Stewart. Right? You know, they're going to see guys like, you know, Rick Astley.
Gotta add an extra hour on after the show's over.
Right.
You know, I'm falling asleep on the way home. But the other thing is, too, I remember in the 80s, Hartford was rocking.
Yeah.
I mean, you had Chuck's Steakhouse was in the Civic Center. You had the Russian Lady. You had boxcars. That was a hopping town.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just gotten to the point where, you know, it's flatlined and you're trying to revive it. You got to get a major sports team, something in there.
Yeah.
You know, to bring it back to life.
And a lot of home games. And a lot of home games.
Exactly.
Without a doubt.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Bill. Much appreciated, sir. Yeah, I know that there's a remedy to this. And again, like I said, back in 2004, the thing that bugged me the most was that there were so many malls to go to, and the malls were crowded when they meant something. And
breaking news, the Buss family selling the Lakers.
Are they?
Yeah, to Mark Walter.
Oh, that means that, but they're staying in L.A., right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what? It wasn't. I'm sorry.
Their dad is rolling over right now.
Yeah, no kidding. What's the daughter's name? What's
Jeannie?
Jeannie Buss. Yeah, I don't think she was doing a great job.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, he was the one before when her dad was alive, smashing Magic Johnson. So
was she with Magic?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, that's just bad. And now is she still with Phil?
I'm not sure.
Because I remember they were for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were for a while. Yeah, but anyway, the sad part is, it's like when I saw the Hartford area, pretty much a barren wasteland. It was just empty. It was a dead zone. And I went to the Buckland Hills Mall, and it was like night and day. And I'm like, is it because of the malls that people weren't going into the city? And I was like, yeah, it kind of made sense. I remember Peter Jennings called it the uglying of America. The fact that more people were driving to the malls instead of to the city for cultural things. I thought it was a, evil thing to say about the suburbs, but that's kind of Americana. The malls. That's how teenagers grew up in the mall. Parents would drop them off. It's got the Orange Julius. It's got the Auntie Anne's. The kids are fed. They could go to the movies. There's an arcade inside. It was sort of a safe haven for kids to roam around. It's like putting them in a big, giant, I don't know, what do you call it? Like a playground. Maybe you give the kids a couple of bucks to go buy a pair of jeans or some sneakers, some extra spending money to go get ice cream and go to the food court. Call up their friends and meet them there, and they'll just go hang around. Girls would watch the boys. Boys would watch the girls. You know, maybe flirt a little, exchange numbers, see kids they went to school with. That was the hangout spot. When I was growing up, we didn't even have that. We had, we had the Coliseum and Jamaica Avenue. I hated the fact that people had the malls when I was in Queens. We had to hang out on our block in our neighborhood. Kids who had malls, I was so jealous of them. God, that was so... It's like, why can't we have a mall? Well, it was simple. Because we would have shot them up.
I was about to say, you would have robbed all the stores.
We would have robbed the stores and shot them up. That's the hood, ladies and gentlemen. That's the hood. That's just the way it is. You poor kids, you had no idea what you had. The rest of us were jealous of you. Couldn't even go to the movies in my neighborhood. Be a shootout. Watching, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Somebody having a shootout. Ridiculous stuff. We had a shootout at the premiere of Godfather 3 at one of the movie theaters.
That's expected.
Yeah, well, I guess that technically would be expected. Let's get a check of the weather, traffic, and some news with John Silva, Jason Caterina, and Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
Stay locked in. Reese on the radio is on WTIC News Talk 1080.
We got more news and more views coming up, so stand by. I did want to read this. Rhode Island, Vermont, Connecticut, and New Hampshire report that tourism meltdown is across the whole country, but these places in particular. Americans Americans and Europeans are not interested in coming to these states. And tourism is down some 60%. Rhode Island's on the list, Vermont again, and Staten Island. Here's what they say about Staten Island. Staten Island. Connecticut, I should say. Staten Island? What the heck? Connecticut suffers quiet decline from European visitors. Connecticut hasn't published official numbers, but signs of a downturn are visible. Long a favorite for heritage tourists from Europe, the state's museums, golf resorts, and shoreline towns are seeing quieter months than expected. Tour operators from Germany and the UK have cut back on scheduled group trips. Business owners say that inquiries from overseas markets have slowed, and upscale properties report lower occupancy among international guests. And I'm assuming they mean like Airbnb and hotels and stuff like that. That doesn't seem, maybe it's just not the right time of year. I know it's been unseasonably warm in Connecticut, right? It's been pretty hot lately.
No, not really.
No? I mean, in the last couple of summers?
Oh, yeah. The last couple of summers.
Yeah, last couple of summers. It's been unseasonably warm. I think that plays a role. People don't, it's a European thing. That's what I believe. That when it's really, really warm, people don't like to go anywhere or to be in places where it's going to be really hot. Lord knows I hate it. I'm a middle-of-the-road guy. Spring and fall, that's my time. That's why I love Connecticut.
72 degrees is the best weather.
This best weather. I couldn't agree more. 72, and at night when it gets down to roughly about a 65 where I can wear a jacket.
Yeah, nice little breeze.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect. Absolutely perfect. So when you get up there in the 90s, I got to wear a T-shirt, and people are talking about linen, and just...
You can't wear no clothes in New Orleans.
Yeah, it's bad. I hate, it's the worst place to sweat under your neck. That just feels like, I don't know. It's the worst feeling ever. And I can't deal with it. So that's what they're saying. I'll read a little bit more later, plus your phone calls. Let's get another check of the weather and traffic with Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
Hot town, summer in the city, back of my neck getting dirt and gritty.
There you go. I just thought of that song right when you said that. Love and Spoonful.
Are you a fall and spring guy, not a hot summer guy? Or you what's your winter guy?
I'm not a winter guy, so anytime I can walk around in shorts and a t-shirt, I'm a happy guy. So
let me ask you this: are you one of those guys who get the ache around the body and then think, oh yeah, we're gonna get a bad storm? Are you there yet?
No, not quite yet. But I'm sure it's coming, Reese.
I hope
sure
not.
It's coming.
I don't want that for you. That's bad. People
Yeah, it
hate
is
that
bad.
guy. My grandmother used to get on my nerves with that. She go, oh, my hip bothered me. We gonna get rain. I'm like, oh, here we go.
What's up, everybody? You know who it is. You know who it is. You know who it is. It's Reese on the radio. Frederick Douglass of the 21st century.
It's WTIC News Talk 1080.
If you're just joining us, earlier we talked about an article out of, I can't even remember what the publication was. It was one of the Connecticut newspapers here, not the Hartford Courant. Oh, Connecticut Post. It was talking about 5 college graduates who were thinking about leaving Connecticut because it was either too expensive, can't get around through public transportation. One young lady referred to the town she grew up in, Harwinton, as a cow town. Well, Zach, who's a faithful listener of the show, and we always appreciate that, Zach sent me this, and I'd like to read it if I could. He says, I'm from the same town as the young lady going to Boston. I'm 28 years old, so quite young, yet slowly leaving that demographic. A lot of it is going to come down to personal preference. I personally love living in a cow town. Harwinton is great. There's 5,000 people. Most people who live there have grown up there, along with their parents, and their parents as well. The people are friendly, and we just got our second stoplight in the town this spring. A very hotly contested decision, by the way. The problem with Harwinton, it's in Connecticut. We're being priced out, despite our selectman doing his best to keep the mill rates down. We've got New Yorkers moving in, trying to shut down farms because they smell, he put in quotes. While I have no plans of leaving, I do wish I could pick the town up and move it to a place like New Hampshire or North Carolina. Our state leaders have abandoned us for illegals and DEI. Connecticut is a declining state, and it's very, very a sad sight to see. And I feel for you. God, there's so much about this, Zach, that I love, that you're talking about. And if I may, it's the parts that's supposed to be funny and somewhat, disconcerting. There's 5,000 people in the town. Love that. I love every part of that. I love every part of that. Only 5,000 people in it. That means you probably get to know half of them. I would get 2,500 new friends. It's easy to know 2,500 people in a small town. He says the people are friendly, and we just got our second stoplight into town this spring. A very hotly contested decision, by the way. I would have loved to have been there during that. Can you imagine being at the barbershop or the diner in the town and everybody's having a debate? So do you think we should get the stoplight? I don't know. I'm against it. I think the stop sign is fine. I would have loved that. I would have loved every bit of that. Coming home and telling the wife, so, looks like we're getting the stoplight. Are you serious? When's it going up? People would have driven into town while they installed it. Those things I love. The farm. Now, again, New Yorkers, let me tell you something. If you got New Yorkers moving into the town, into Cowtown, and then complaining about it being there, okay, I'll admit New Yorkers could be a little arrogant, but that's just idiotic, to say the least. I'm sure they scoped the town out and saw that there were farms. I'm sure if they had kids and they drove down the road, they saw the cows and went, "Oh, look, moo cows." And if these sons of brain surgeons moved into town and then are trying to get rid of them, I'm sorry, I would have to, I may have to scream at somebody. I just would. That's exactly. I would definitely have to curse some people out. I just would. It would be like moving to New York City and complaining about the police and fire sirens. And then telling them you're going to have to tone it down a bit. New Yorkers, you're smarter than, or at least I thought you were. But everything about that is beautiful. That is the reason, like, again, I'm a New Yorker. And maybe I'm a little nostalgic here. But I am the type of person that says you go to Connecticut to get away from all of that hustle and bustle that these kids are talking about leaving. You know? Alvaro says, so boring. Well, I'm not, you have to explain. Am I so boring, or is it so boring to live in Cowtown? I know. Look, if you're looking for excitement, clearly Connecticut is not your cup of tea. In Connecticut, if you're looking for excitement, there's New Haven, there's Bridgeport, those places. There's a lot of, really, really fine action going on in those neighborhoods. There's a lot of ducking and running, screaming. It's like living in Jurassic Park. But more guns. That's all. And violence of a different kind. I'm just saying, if you want to live somewhere where it's quiet, Connecticut is where you go. Well, thank you, Alvaro. I'm glad I'm boring you. That means you should stick around longer. When you first moved here, Roland, to Connecticut, did you think it was compared to New Orleans? Did you think it was really, really slow? Because New Orleans is not
New Orleans Louisiana is slow.
Louisiana
down south is slow.
Yeah,
so it was right in the same wheelhouse. Now, I will say when I used to go visit New York, then I was like, oh, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah, and you know what? I still to this day don't know what people are talking about as a New Yorker. People say, everybody in New York moves so fast. I go, really?
No,
I never got that impression.
It moves super fast. I couldn't even keep up with the traffic or like when to walk or my first couple of times going out there. Yeah, then I got going out there a lot more. I got used to it.
I'll always say that when being in Connecticut, being in Virginia, I think my attitude being in those areas, I calmed down a little bit. Like I acclimated very fast in those areas. When I come to a different place and I notice that things are slow or done differently, I just immediately go, this seems cool. And I never got the impression when I got back to New York that everybody was all over the place. I will admit, the only thing that really bothered me about going back to New York, I think I went there for my brother's wedding in 2018. That was like the last time I was there in New York City. I drove through Manhattan. The thing that I thought was the biggest change was the fact that there were bikes everywhere. That was annoying. Like having to make a turn here and there. I had to look for a bike lane.
Oh, yeah.
That had like its own signal.
Yep.
That was uncomfortable to deal with. But like I said, I tell everybody, I'm the one person from New York who hates it. Because I always thought that there was just too much emphasis on being a New Yorker and not recognizing who we are. It's like, I'm from New York. And I'm like, then what does that mean? We have so many different, Manhattan is not like Queens. Queens is not like Brooklyn. I mean, we really can distinguish ourselves. Brooklyn is not like Staten Island, although they're similar in some ways. But they're not the same. And people treat New York like it's this all-encompassing sort of way of life, and it isn't. It's very different. And this deal that everybody is fast, it's like I never really got that impression. I kind of just thought that we just move differently.
Yeah, the two humongous differences when I moved up here was the number one thing was the food, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
The food is way different. But the other thing was everybody, all the kids were still out playing, but we played football down south.
Yeah.
And basketball up north. So
Now, we played stickball here, and I'm not going to lie, that was actually pretty fun. I like stickball.
Ooh.
Stickball was a big deal here.
Lakers selling for $10 billion.
That sounds right. That sounds right. Yeah. $10 billion?
$10 billion.
That'll come down.
You think so?
Yeah, I'm positive. I mean, how much are the Dallas Cowboys worth?
Probably somewhere in around the same boat. Probably about $5 or $6 billion.
Let's take a Dallas Cowboys.
I would say about $6 billion.
Cowboys worth. Let's see if we can get a worth today. $10.32 billion.
Yeah, there you go. I said about the same.
Ugh. I don't know.
America's team, man.
Yeah, America's team. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay, sure. $10.32 billion. What would be the next popular team in sports? I mean, in football. In football.
Or in football, you got the Cowboys. You got, well, it was the Patriots, but not anymore. The Chiefs.
Okay, let's say the Chiefs. The Chiefs. Chiefs worth. Let's see if that's even comparable to what. I think I put that in wrong. Did I just put that in? Yes, I did. The Chiefs worth. That's incredibly low. $4.3 billion.
$6 billion difference.
That's pretty bad.
They've won 3 Super Bowls in the last 6 years?
Yeah,
probably 5-6 years.
So that goes with that. That shows you what that is. Anyway, all right. Before I get out of here, let's take Frank into Hartford, who's on hold, and you're my last but not least caller. So how you doing, Frank?
Not bad. How about yourself?
I'm good, sir. What do you got?
You haven't brought up the fact that we were going to get a casino built at no cost in downtown Hartford.
I remember that.
The mayor then rejected it, saying that it would be no good for the people of the city, that they would waste all their money gambling in the casino. Yet the income that it would have brought in for Hartford would have been incredible.
You know what? I think, and it's funny because I dealt with this in Boston. Boston wanted to build a casino in the city. Back in 2008, it was a big to-do, a big conversation about it. And many people have this argument, and I'll get your take on this, was that usually when you bring a casino, the two things that you bring in as far as a criminal enterprise, as it were, you got a lot of loan sharking and prostitution. That's always the concern of the local constituency. You don't think that would have been a problem in Hartford, considering like what it looks like today?
We have it already.
Yeah.
Go down Washington Street. I mean, I worked in the city for 25 years.
Right.
In the 70s and through. And downtown was so much fun. After hours, you go there. Now they pull up the sidewalk at 5 o'clock. You don't think a casino would have helped that? It
There's
was just
so much
ridiculous
you can. Listen, do I say that the ends, do they justify the means? And I'll tell you what I mean by that is you are right, because as the earlier caller said, many people will go out to Mohegan Sun. Many people will go out to Foxwoods. They will take that long trip to go spend their money there because it's not just gambling. There are shows and that whole bit. If you do bring it, I wouldn't say, how about this? Would it help on a small scale, or would you need a Mohegan Sun type institution in Hartford to make it bustling again?
Well, what do you mean, as it says now?
Yeah, no. Like, would you need something? Would you need something more substantial than Foxwoods or Mohegan? Well, Mohegan Sun is smaller, so would you need something comparable to Mohegan Sun, or would you need a smaller version of that in the city of Hartford?
Even if you put in a smaller version, now that we have the minor league baseball team,
right,
that has been voted the best facility in the minor league as of now.
Yeah.
And also you've got the Civic Center being redone.
Yeah.
I think it would eventually build the city back up again.
It's true. And you can get those restaurants. You get what do you call it? The guys from Hell's, Gordon Ramsay restaurants in there. You get all of that other stuff inside. But you don't even have to have a sports arena. And what makes a good point about this, Frank, is look what's happening with Vegas right now. They're about to bring the Oakland A's to the area as well. I mean, it is, forget about Northern California. Nevada is the place to go. Las Vegas is the place to go. It might be a smart move.
It's booming because they built that football stadium. It seemed like it took just a couple of years.
It sure did.
I go to Vegas all the time, and going by the highway when they first started, and then the following year it was almost done.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're right. They're building everything out there, and you got legalized gambling.
Yeah.
And, I don't think Vegas is hurting for anything right now.
It's true. It's a lot better than it used to be. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate you holding, and thank you for being our last caller today.
All righty. Take care now.
You got it, buddy. Yeah, I mean, maybe you may just have to. Just suck it up. I know people will call about it tomorrow. Should they turn? Oh, wow, Hartford. A gambling mecca of New England. I don't know. You got to do something. Vegas did it. Yeah. Let's get up out of here. As I always say, radio is free, so we thank you for paying attention. Remember to keep JC in your hearts and in your minds. So, Patrick, we love you and we miss you. Remember, the panic is not planning, so plan your work and work your plan. Me, I'm Reese on the radio. You have a good night, a pleasant tomorrow. We'll see you back here next time. Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark, gambling.
There was talks of bringing a casino into Hartford during John Rowland's administration, and John didn't like the idea, and it never happened.
They may have to rethink it, man.
Well, I don't know. I'm not a big proponent of casinos because a lot of people that shouldn't be gambling are gambling. And
I get it.
They lose a lot. They lose a lot, unfortunately.
Yep.
Hey, Reese, have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.
You got it.
91 southbound, a little slow at 32 A&B.
They're going to gamble either way.
Bump 23 down to 22.
It's so true.
As you move down into the Cromwell
all right, I'll see you
area
tomorrow. We'll
by
do
the
it all
Route 9
again.
interchange.
All right, sir. You enjoy your night.
Thank you, man. You
Southbound
too.
side of 91. Look for slow traffic as you approach 20 down to exit 17 in Meriden. Northbound side of 91.
All right, Pasa. There is a casino downtown in Springfield. That's right. I do know that. I don't think it has helped much. Springfield is a little different, though. Hartford, that would change a lot. We might talk about it a little bit more tomorrow. Thank you, Richard. I appreciate you. Alvaro, I'm sorry that you thought it was so boring. You should have come much later and when we were on regular radio, but you found us, and we appreciate you. Y'all be good. Holler.